All right, guys, we got our special guest, which I'm super excited about. We got the 2024 Senior U.S. Women's Open winner, and I'm quoting Tracy Hansen and Jill McGill, the best putter on the LPGA Legends Tour, Leta Lindley, man. Leta, thank you for taking the time to come on here out of your busy day. You traveled all weekend, just got through playing in the U.S. Open, so I know it was a lot for you. So I'm super grateful that you're here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Absolutely, man. I love that little shiny piece of equipment we see there in the background. Speaking of the 2024 Senior U.S. Open, man, that's a pretty little thing you got back there. But man, let's talk some golf, man. So this is the one of the questions that Nate had for you. So obviously, the 2025 U.S. Open winner was Maya Starks, man. In an interview, they talked about how much of golf is letting the game come to you, or do you have a different approach going into tournament golf? Because you've won on the LPGA Tour before, you won on the 2024 Senior Women's Open. So I would love to know your mindset with that.
I guess I've done it both ways. My first victory after having two kids in 2008, I think I just
Wow.
sort of let it happen to me.
Okay.
I actually thought maybe it was like this when the universe aligned. It was a happy, wonderful experience. But I don't know that I dared to dream so big when I was on tour.
Mm,
And in this season of my career, I've actually was very purposeful with my goal. I wanted to win the US Senior Women's Open. And so I worked for it. I put it out there. I made it my goal. I had post-it notes. I've been dreaming about that for 3 years. So, I mean, some of it is allowing it to happen and going through
mm,
your process and, just playing and adding it up in the end. And either they hand you the trophy or you don't. But I think it's important, though, to see yourself doing great things and being a major champion, holding the big shiny trophy, maybe getting comfortable with doing something very grand, in your
mm,
mind.
for
Just
sure.
having that kind of mindset. It can be, a big achievement. That's a big mountain to climb. And sometimes you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. We said that all the time. I play football, obviously, and we talked about that too. We put the pressures on ourselves in practice, making ourselves uncomfortable, hoping that the game becomes comfortable to us. I think that's great advice too. And for me, I'm going to take that advice because I'm just trying to win like a local golf tournament here in Arizona, and I cannot close at all. I played in this most recent tournament at Dove Valley, which is pretty much my home course. I was T2 going into hole 15, went like quad, triple, triple, dropped all the way to T14. So it's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, me and my coach Chelsea Carroll, we're trying to figure out like obviously golf. I say golf's a hard sport to play. It's like, man, am I just losing skill towards the end from a conditioning standpoint, or is it a mental aspect? But I think I need to learn how to, set my mind on like winning and having those aspirations, those goals too. Even though I do, but I think it kind of I don't know if it leaves my mind closing towards the end because endurance is a huge part of the game of golf.
It is a huge part, and I also think too that sometimes we put that pressure on ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
we can kind of freeze up. And so, if you can really approach the game at one shot at a time, I mean, it's very cliche.
For sure.
We
Yeah.
say that a lot, but I don't know that I ever really have been able to do it until sort of maybe the last couple years, where I was really
Mm-hmm.
in that moment. I didn't really realize what I was shooting. I was just trying to hit that very best shot in that moment and didn't give it any more weight than it needed to have. Like, oh my gosh, when you're talking about breaking barriers, winning golf tournaments, or for amateurs that might be listening, breaking 100 or 90 or 80, so many times I hear, I was going into the last hole. All I needed to do was
Mm-hmm.
make
Mm-hmm.
double, and I
Yeah.
would have broken 90. But
Yeah.
instead, I made a quadruple bogey. So instead of thinking about that, when I'm coming down the stretch, I'm just focused on that one shot that
Mm.
I need to hit in that moment and trying not to give it more weight than it would if I was just playing, a normal round at my home course.
Yeah.
So you're trying to be the same, whether it's in that major championship or you're just playing, your home course and shooting the course record there.
Yeah.
It's not any different. It's still a golf shot, right? And you have to
Mm-hmm.
hit that shot in that moment. And so trying not to get too far ahead of ourselves, even though we have these goals that we're trying to
Right.
achieve.
Right. No, I think it's good too, like staying present. and I think that goes for all sports. I know that you want to be prepared for certain situations, so you do prep for those, but I think it's very imperative that, let me just focus on this putt as opposed to like, dang, I know this next hole is handicap 1. I know it's a dog lane right, and I've been hitting draws all day. Like, let's just focus on making the putt, and then when we get there, we prep for that moment at the time. So I think that's really good advice. The second question I have for you is, you had your best finish in the U.S. Open, 1995, solid T5. I would love to know what was your comparison. I would love to know the comparison between your preparation now versus back then, as well as your style of play back then versus now as well.
Well, that was my rookie season, and I was a conditional player, so I didn't get into everything. So any tournament I got into sort of felt like a major championship to me.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't like I had this full schedule. I was going to play 27 events. I knew what was coming. I might not know until the week before or even a day before that I might be teeing it up. So I remember very distinctly that when I finished 5th, I'm like, well, it didn't feel any different to me because every tournament I got into was a really big deal and a big opportunity. So, I just sort of played solid golf. And I remember seeing an interview that they had done with Betsy King. She had won numerous U.S. Open, U.S. Women's Open championships. And she just said her philosophy was, I'm just going to hit it in the middle of the green and, try to just give myself opportunities. I'm like, well, that sounds like a great plan. So that's actually what I tried to do there at the Broadmoor. My very first Women's Open was, I'm just going to hit it down the middle. I'm just going to try and hit it on the green in the middle. And, give myself, some nice opportunities and just try and play par golf, because we all know that, over the course of history, if the USGA really likes par. And so if you can be somewhere around there and throw in some birdies, you're going to be in pretty good shape and have a nice championship, and you might be walking away with a trophy. So that was my philosophy at that time. Going into it last year, my prep was very purposeful in the terms of, you hear, a lot of talk about, I'm preparing for a major. This was my goal. Rory McIlroy, he's preparing for a major. I don't know that I ever really did that. I was just preparing for golf that week.
I hear you.
Obviously, my goals, I don't play in as many tournaments as I did when I was on the LPGA Tour. We don't have as much to play in. So I was very purposeful. I was preparing for a very specific tournament. So it's a little different in this season. And then I really did take that one shot at a time approach and tried not to get ahead of myself, because I had finished second, and then I went into my 3rd U.S. Senior Women's Open, and there was a lot of pressure, a lot of buildup. People were like, "Oh, well, you finished second, like you're due to win."
Yeah.
Which I felt like I was, but at the same time, I didn't want to get ahead of myself.
Right.
And it's a long week. There's a lot of golf to be played, and I knew I knew I was capable of playing great golf. I've been playing well the last couple years. I just needed to not get too far ahead of myself and just take one shot at a time. Yeah. And it worked out this time.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Again, if you guys are watching, please like, subscribe, comment. But we see that shiny, beautiful trophy she has in the background, man, which is just awesome. I have a unique question to ask. So pace of play issues, something that Dottie's been kind of vocal about, as well as Charlie Hull's been vocal about too. And we saw kind of like a rift between her and Lexi. At least her body language was presenting that towards Lexi. Man, I want to know, how do players like balance, like, I'm really trying to focus on like making this putt or making this shot, versus like, hey, you're playing too slow? Because in Lexi Thomas' case, she's trying to make the cut, which she didn't. And I wonder if it's like where's the fine line between that? Like, come on, Lexi, like just go hit this putt, versus like, hey, Charlie, I understand, bro. Like, you're going to make it to the weekend. She's on the line right now.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Charlie is a very fast player, from what I understand. Very, very fast. She doesn't waste any time. I would say Laura Davies is very similar to that. And there's some players who are very, very deliberate. I did read Lexi's statement. Pace of play was very slow out there. It's a long golf course.
Oh, yeah, 6,800 yards.
And you're grinding it out. And if you watched any of the final round where balls are rolling off the green, you had to be very careful, because, you're one breath away from disaster.
Right.
Even when you were on the putting surface. I mean, we watched that where players were putting them off the greens.
Mm-hmm.
So, when people are grinding it out at the Open, sometimes pace of play is a little bit slower. Lexi did make the statement that they were never warned. They were never timed.
Good point.
And the U.S. Open field is bigger than a normal field. I think 144 is typical.
144. Okay, yeah, okay.
144 is typical week to week. So now we have more players on the golf course in a crossover. So you could play fast on the front side and then make the turn and be waiting because there's just too many people on the golf course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we want to give people opportunity, and this isn't Charlie's first, women's Open.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really have to put your patience hat on. And I don't know if, again, I didn't see it. I don't know if her emotions were directed at Lexi, or she just, she gets frustrated when it's slow play and she likes a little faster pace throughout the round. So, it's hard. Everybody has a little bit different style. I do like ready golf. I think your caddy can help you with that by getting the numbers, being more prepared. It bothers me when players, part of their routine is to put your glove on before you hit. I'm like, your glove should already be on. Why are we wasting time putting your glove on? Like, put it on while you're walking.
Fair.
So I think that there are things that you can do. If I know that I need more time because I have a tough shot or a tough chip, I try to get up there as fast as I can so I can buy myself a little bit of time so I'm not affecting pace of play.
Yeah.
Obviously, if somebody in your group is getting in trouble, which happens a lot at an Open, it does slow things down.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to know if her emotions were directed at Lexi or just the situation.
It could be situation because I wasn't there. Because I was watching you guys. I love watching women's golf. I think more people should. I think it should be aired more outside of just majors. But they had that super group with her, Charlie, Lexi, and Nelly. So I was seeing a lot of that stuff. And like I said, I don't really know if it was directed towards Lexi, but the way the cameras, I guess skewed the viewing of it.
Right.
She just Charlie just looked impatient as Lexi's reading the putt. But in my head, I'm just like, she's trying to make the cut, man. And I'm a Lexi Thompson fan too. I'm a Lexi fan, so I'm like, hey, Charlie, back off, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I always want to know where's the fine line between that. But I would love to transition to the actual course, Erin Hills. Super long, as you alluded to, and that's something that Tracy talked about as well. Some stats I kind of have gathered here is we saw that the first 3 holes played the easiest. I think hole 6 played either the first or second toughest holes. But look at day 1, 33 players out of 156 broke par, 10 players shot in the 80s. I want to hear from your perspective, how difficult was this course? Because obviously I'm not playing it. I don't really understand the undulations and how fast the greens are and stuff like that.
Well, for me, it was very difficult. I mean, that's the longest golf course I've played in my career at 6,800 yards.
Right.
I was the shortest hitter on tour, and I certainly and still am the shortest hitter, especially at 53, and I'm competing against girls who were half my age. It certainly was a long bombers golf course. If you could get it, I played with the Mid-Am champion, Hannah, I forget her last name, but she took lines that I didn't even know were lines off the tee. Wow. I'm like, where's that ball going? And then she was perfect. I'm like, I didn't even know that you could go in that direction. So I was going around the mountain and they were going over the top of it.
Wow.
So it definitely favored longer hitters. The greens were really fast. I think the greens are what made it super tricky, which we saw especially on the last day. There was a lot of carnage, and you would see girls putting it off the green. They were running at least a 13. And there were certainly some green complexes that I would describe as diabolical. Number 9, Mel Reed did a really nice segment on Golf Channel describing the 9th hole, which is it's a short downhill par 3.
Right. Yes.
You just look at the yardage, and it's like, oh, well, that should be the easiest
It's easy.
hole.
Right.
I mean, you had to a 5 to 10 foot area where you could land the ball. Otherwise, it was in these very treacherous bunkers. It would go down to the front of the green, or it's going off the side. Between that, and I thought those were some of the most challenging bunkers I've ever seen. And I do believe somebody said that's the most bunkers on a U.S. Open course that we've ever had.
Yeah.
So It was a great test. I don't think that they had the wind that they thought that they were going to have. So maybe that's why it was a little bit more under par than what the USGA likes. There's nothing to block the wind out there. And for the most part, we probably saw more wind in the practice rounds than we did during the championship. But it was the green complexes that were so challenging and could really mess with your head, and knowing that, you hit this putt a little bit too hard and there's going to be carnage.
Yeah, and it looked like that too. And even like going back to looking at hole 18, I believe I think it was either day 3 or day 4. I know for Nelly, it was so trippy because she tried to chip up, and I think she didn't hit the right spot, and it rolled all the way back down. And at that point, I think she was trying her best to obviously press Maya, threaten her a little
That's
bit.
the last day.
Yeah, but I think, I said this earlier to Nate. There's this prominent coach out here, Jen Park. He always say, because I'm trying to break 80. That's the point I'm to right now. He said to break 80, there are 3 rules. You can't lose strokes off the tee, can't 3-putt, and you can't chip twice. So when Nelly chipped twice, I said, yeah, dog, it's over. And unfortunately for Nelly, her putter hasn't been hot. She's been going back and forth between a blade and a mallet. I was like, she's not going to want to putt to threaten Maya at all. So at that point, I knew it was kind of over. But I think that's very interesting. It was, like I said, I love watching women's golf. It was super, super fun to watch. Last question I do want to leave you with, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're on the East Coast. It's 9/18. You've been traveling. And you got to get ready for your tournament with the LPGA Legends Tour in Kentucky, which we see you came close to that last week. I think you finished either T4 or 4th.
The LPGA Senior Championship.
Yeah,
T4.
Yeah, which was a great finish. What's her name? Carrie or Christy Kerr ended up winning that tournament. Yeah, ended up winning. Yeah. What do you think you need to do possibly this week to hopefully project yourself to a win heading to Kentucky?
Well, the Kentucky event is actually a team event, so I'm paired up with Susie Whaley. So it's a little different format than the LPGA Championship, where it's just me against the field. So
is it similar to the one you did here in Arizona?
Yes, very similar to the Marilyn Smith event that we did at Arizona. So it'll be a fun event. It's going to be a birdie fest. You're going to have to make a lot of putts. I am putting well. I did putt really well last week.
We know.
So I got that going for me. Susie hits it longer than I do, so that'll be helpful. I do believe one of the days is like a scramble, and then the other day is a best ball, exactly what we did in Arizona.
Nice.
So for me, it's more about another opportunity to get in competitive reps. Just to see where my game is. As we start to head in next month, we'll have an event in New York, and then after that, I'll be heading back to Toledo, where the LPGA used to play. We have a combination event with the Epson Tour players.
Nice. Love
so
the
I'm
Epson
really
Tour
looking
players.
forward to that. So for me, as I get ready to go into the summer and for these bigger tournaments and the U.S. Senior Women's Open, I'm just looking for competitive reps, whatever they are. Sometimes I'll play in state opens, because there's no substitute for that. Like, you need that pressure. It's not the same as just going and playing 18 holes at my home course. You really see where your weaknesses are and what you need to work on when you're in competition. So, that's what I'm looking for going in this summer, so that I can be, at the top of my game when I go to defend in August.
Yeah, I love that. Because that's why I told myself I want to play in 5 tournaments this year. I'm part of this tour called like the Amateurs Players Tour. And I want to feel the pressure of tournament golf. Because I go out and play with my friends, and I'll shoot like a 85, 87, something around there. Then I get to these tournaments, it's like 96, 97. It's just like so difficult. But I love like preparing for like game days, because playing football, we have a certain structure that we follow preparing up to game days. And I miss having those like routines and those structures. And golf has given me the outlet to do those same things. But I'm trying to break through best I can in one of these tournaments. I just want to at least finish top 5. This is my first year like really doing it like by myself. Like, oh, you miss off the tee, go back to the tee box, all that type of stuff, man. And I'm hoping as I continue to go that I get better. Also, last question I do want to ask you too is what goes into I guess picking your teammate when it comes to the LPGA Legends Tour. Like, is that by the player's choice, or is it like, how does that work?
Sometimes it's the player's choice. So I teamed up with my friend Jackie Gallagher-Smith in Arizona. This one, the event paired us up together. Susie and I paired up twice last year at Woodford and then at the BJ's Championship in September. So I've played with Susie before. She's a new partner for me. But I do pair up with my friend Jackie. We've played a lot of events. We play all our practice rounds together, and we travel together, which makes the whole experience way more fun when you have a friend to travel with. So this is a little bit different that the tournament paired us up, but Susie's an awesome player, and I really enjoyed pairing up with her last year, and we're looking forward to building off of our success and see if we can't get a little higher on the leaderboard. It's going to be a great field, and it'll certainly be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for coming on here. I'll be praying for you, Susie. I gotta be praying for my dog Tracy, Bart Moxon, all you legends on there, man. I'll be following the scorecards as you guys are playing. Unfortunately, you guys aren't live or anything like that, but again, thank you, and everybody go follow Leta Lindley on IG, all her socials, man. She's awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Geremy. It's good to see you.
Absolutely, you too.